Good morning, friends. Um, Today I'm going to keep the talk very minimum because I already have a good recording, which was a 4-day program I did for the servants of the Buddha. And I shared that uh, talk in the group. And in that, I did a step-by-step practice of being in a place of non-abiding. And prior to starting it, Dr. Manori, who is the president of the Servants of the Buddha, she did what we call the 4 protective meditations. We call it in Sinhala, Satara Arakshaka Bhavana. So these are called the 4 protective meditations because it protects your concentration on one side and also protects you and supports you being on the path. So these are Buddhanusati. Buddhanusati is about reflecting on the qualities of the Buddha. The qualities of the Buddha are detailed out in the Gatha Itipiso Bhagava. It talks about 9 great qualities of the Buddha. So this meditation builds on what we call Shraddha or faith. So we need a balance between faith and wisdom. Too much of faith leads to blind faith, which was not advocated by the Buddha because the Buddha wanted people to reason things out, use logical reasoning and experiential wisdom. So blind faith he never advocated, but some degree of faith is required to try things out because that then helps us to try things out because we have some faith that in trying this out, some good will come for me in it, and that level of faith is required. So Buddhanusati is definitely good to reflect on the qualities of the Buddha, as he's the only human that we know in if you look at 6,000 or 10,000 years of human history, he's the only human we know who has been born a human, stayed a human, and claimed that he's a human, and shown a path to enlightenment, and told that humans can do it. So that's very, very motivating. So therefore, having some faith in the teacher is a good thing, and that is what it does. Then the second meditation of the 4 protective meditations is metta meditation. And that is very important because as we travel the path, and the path is predominantly a reflective meditative path of samatha and vipassana, which is concentration and experiential insight. We can get irritated and agitated, especially with ourselves, and then with the technique and with the teachers. So metta meditation really helps us to be kind to ourselves, give ourselves plenty of encouragement, compassion, patience, and so on. And as a result, we become a kinder, nicer, more pleasant person. And that is really good for our physical health, mental health, and definitely good for the people around us when we are nicer people. So that is the second one. The third one is Asubha Bhavana, or rather meditating on the repulsive nature of our body. And that is useful because we all are deeply in love with myself, the concept as well as the physical part of myself. So the physical part of myself is my body, and we are all utterly and dearly in love with our body. So we take great efforts to maintain our youthfulness, our appearance, and all that is very good because it creates sort of positivity in our mind. However, this attachment to our physical body also causes us great pain because as this physical body ages and falls sick and starts deteriorating, we just can't deal with it. We we, what do you say, experience great pains mentally, emotionally as a result. So reflecting on the impurities of the body really helps to give a bit of a balance, that even in the best of youth, in the prime of youth, what appears pretty is actually an outer thing, but inside there's a lot of ugly, smelly, dirty things going on. And just being conscious of it, mindful of it, just helps us to understand what is really there, and not just take things at face value, because beauty is, we usually take it at face value with no conscious understanding or reflection on what is beneath the skin. So that is Asubaya. And the last one is Marananusmati, which is reflecting on death. So we all know that everything that is born will come to an end. And we are not okay with it, but relatively okay with it when it is to do with somebody else. We are certainly not okay with it when it's to do with myself, and certainly not when it comes to things that are part of myself, like my family, my friends, my teachers, and so on. So these are also things that we really painfully suffer. And why is reflection on the death such an important thing? Being on the path is, it helps to overcome laziness, drowsiness, and so on, because it just reminds you that the clock is ticking and you are running out of time. So it helps you to be heedful, and to take right action at the right time. Yeah, so these four protective meditations help to protect you against what we call the 5 hindrances. The 5 hindrances are things that hinder you on this path to enlightenment. So we have discussed this before. So Kama Chanda, Vyapada, Thinamidda, Uddhacha Kukkucha, and Vichikicha. So Kama Chanda is taking absolute delight in sensual pleasures. Vyapada is getting angry, irritated, agitated. Thinamidda is sloth and torpor, the drowsiness, feeling sleepy and lethargic. Uddhacha Kukkucha is regrets and remorse. And Vichikicha is doubt, having doubt about the teacher and the techniques, to such an extent that you don't want to even try. Not interested because it's absolutely a write-off. So these are the kind of things that these 4 protective meditations help to overcome. So Asubaya will help in the Kama Chanda, Metta meditation helps in the Vyapada, Buddhanusati helps in the doubt about the teacher, and Marananusati will help in sloth and torpor. Whenever you feel lazy, you have scheduled meditation, you have cleared your diary for meditation, you actually have the opportunity to meditate, but sometimes we feel lazy and think, no, I'll not do it today, I'll do it tomorrow, next week. And that is what Marananusmati will help to remind you that, tomorrow may not come and next week may not come. So might as well do it today, because if you do it today, then at least, it's done today. So those were the 4 protective meditations. And so in this 4-day program, once Dr. Manori does that, I then take over and help people practice in a step-by-step manner, to be in a place of non-abiding. So just to remind you what that place is. Me, myself, I, the way we understand myself or the concept of I, it comes broadly from three things coming together. So one is there's this body, the physical body, which we call the materiality of the being. And then there is the mind, which is the all the thoughts, emotions, moods, and everything. And there is something else that brings this all together. And that part is part of the what we call the mind, the consciousness. And that consciousness rises and passes away at a very rapid speed. But it's so fast that our brain is not capable of fathoming it in the separate bits in which it's occurring. It just looks like it's one continuous stream of thoughts, stream of feelings, a stream of experiences, because we can't fathom the gap in between each consciousness arising and passing away at a very, very rapid speed. So as a result, we see the mind as a continuum, thinking, thoughts, experiences as a continuum. And our physical body, again, due to limitations of our senses, our eyes and our feelings and understanding, we are highly limited. So we don't see the body as what it truly is, which is simply a collection of tiny particles and energy, and the particles in various forms of solid form, liquid form, gaseous form, and a temperature form. We instead see this as a monolithic mass. And these tiny particles are rising, changing, and passing away at rapid speed, and we don't see that. We don't see the tiny particle, we don't see the change that is happening rapidly. And instead, we see a monolithic mass, which was there yesterday, which is there today, and tomorrow, when we wake up and look at ourselves, we will see that nothing has changed between yesterday, today, and tomorrow, whereas millions of things have changed, and we are not aware because it is beyond our scope of comprehension. Our eyes cannot see it. Our brain cannot fathom it. And for this reason, what is impermanent appears permanent. And similarly, what is painful and unpleasant appears blissful and pleasant. And therefore, we live in a world of unrealisticness, and as an ignorance. And due to that ignorance of not really understanding what's really happening, and being in this unrealistic world of believing that something seems permanent when it is not, and believing that something is happiness when it is not, it's delusion at its best, arising from ignorance. And that gives rise to a misinterpretation of a permanent entity who is having a good time. And that is what is sold in the world, a permanent entity having a good time. And that becomes an entitlement to 7 billion such beings on this world who believe that we are born to have a good time, and that's what we must do. So it's coming at a huge cost of the environment. It's coming at a huge cost of selfishness. It's coming at a huge cost of everything. And at any moment in time, if you stop any one of these individuals and ask, so are you happy now? Nobody's happy. Everybody's extremely unhappy. And the unhappiness is just increasing over every decade. And you find more and more people getting into anxiety and depression and suicide, because living in this unrealistic mind constructed world where commercially is being exploited to the maximum, and we are all slaves to this this combination of living in ignorance, and that ignorance being commercially exploited, and you see it at its peak now, and resulting in not being able to cope financially, mentally, physically. And many people, therefore, then resorting to temporary solutions, whether it is drinking, smoking, drugs, or other self-destructive methods of forgetting this reality for a moment, only to come back to it and feel even more depressed. So it's a very vicious cycle. And we are all in it. We are all in it. But thankfully, because we also are on a Dhamma path, we have those moments of reclusion. We have those moments of peace. And because we experience that peace, we know that there is another way. And that other way tells us to stop and take stock of what is going on. And it helps us to understand theoretically that this is the problem. The problem is that we have misunderstood what's happening, and we have been relying on our sense doors to help us to explain what is happening, and that has misguided us. And therefore, the way to really understand what is happening is to go inside and start observing when these experiences are happening, to observe what is taking place. And how do we do that? Pure observation in the mind from a place of awareness. And where is this awareness? It has no place. It's not, you cannot find it in moving forward to the future. You cannot find it in moving backwards to the past. You cannot find it remaining still in the present moment, because there is no such thing. And this place where there is no place is what is called a place of non-abiding. There's no abode. There's no place to go. When there's no place to go, you have to start then letting go of wanting to have a place to go. Because wanting to have a place to go is how we got into that ignorance in the first place. And we constructed this physical body, the mental body, mental things inside the physical body, and got stuck in place and time. Whereas when you start to deconstruct it and realize that there's no physical body, it's just a bunch of particles changing at a rapid speed. There's no mental body, quote unquote. It's just thoughts and moods and emotions changing at an even more rapid speed. And that combination gives experiences which at the time we experience is already a past experience, because the brain takes time to feel it and understand it and perceive it and experience it. And at that moment it's experiencing it, and we think that we are in this moment. It's already a past experience. Everything has changed already. And therefore, what is left is just an awareness of what is happening in the physical sphere, in the mental sphere, and just being cognizant of all of that. And just being cognizant of that, and that helps us to understand that there's no place to go, because there's no one to go. There's no one to go, because which particle of the body is going to go? Because there's no particle in the body to go anywhere, because the particle keeps changing. And there's no consciousness to go anywhere, because the consciousness changes even at a faster speed. So then when there is no one to go, the question of where to go does not even arise. And this whole thing about when you are feeling irritated or frustrated or angry, which is a state of dvesha or aversion, or when you are in a feeling or state of love and wanting and desires, which is a state of lobha or greed, it is because of your delusion, which is moha or ignorance. And that is when you need to go to a place of non-abiding, which is to understand that there is no one, hence there is no place to go. A place of non-abiding is that. So to come to that place of awareness, again, we refuse things like come to that place because we are so structured around going to a place in a moment of time, and that's how we have got used to thinking about all of these things. We are not used to thinking of there's no thinker, so what is there to think? There's no one to think, so what is there to think? It's only an experience. And there's nowhere to go because there's no one to go. And of course, there's no place to go anyway. So this is why Ajahn Chah wrote to Ajahn Sumedho long ago and said, when he was engaged in the difficult task of building a monastery in the UK, Ajahn Chah, being in Thailand, knew the challenges that Ajahn Sumedho will face. And he said, Sumedho, when you are experiencing a piece of pleasure, happiness, and attracted to something, as well as when you are experiencing anger, irritation, and feeling repulsed by something, remember that, remember the place of non-abiding, remember the Buddha Dhamma, and be in a place of non-abiding, because there is no one to be happy, there's no one to be angry, and there's no place to go. And Ajahn Chah would enjoy asking lay people the question, if you cannot move forward and you cannot move backwards and you cannot stand still, where do you go to? And then people would say sideways, they would say up and down and so on. And he says, no, you can't go sideways or up or down. And you can't stand still either. Where would you go? So people would get confused because in our deluded state, we think of there is a me. And the moment there is a me, there is time and there's space. The moment there is no me, there's no time and there's no space. Because there's no one to occupy time and space. So that is what makes it interesting. So the meditation is all about trying to experience it. So for example, I started that meditation by saying, okay, let's practice Anapanasati, but not in the usual way where you're keeping your attention on the breath, not in that way. I want you to do Anapanasati from a place of awareness, where your body is doing the breathing and you are just observing. That is the first step to practice being in a place of non-abiding. Let your body do the breathing and you are being aware. And then we went on to practice it by doing walking meditation, where you stand up and wait quietly, just being aware that you're standing and how your entire weight can be felt on the soles of your feet. And just let that awareness settle in. And once you have a reasonable degree of comfort that your awareness is settled in on your body and how particularly the volume or the weight can be felt on the feet, then you start walking, keeping that awareness on the body and let the body walk and just be aware of the walking body. So that was the second way we practiced. And then the third way to practice was to focus on sound. To sit and close your eyes and just focus on sound, and not in the usual way where we interpret the sound and say, oh, that is this particular bird, or that is that particular vehicle and its form, or that is that family member talking. Instead of doing that, which is what we have done all our life, just to be observant of a sound, because it's just a sound, nothing else. It's a sound wave that comes and reverberates against our eardrum and converts into electromagnetic charges that goes up the auditory nerve to the brain, waiting to get interpreted. That's all that it is, just a sound wave. And then we went on to focus on the body. Well, seated and eyes closed. What do you feel on the body? How the body is sitting? How the weight gets distributed in that posture? Where are the places where it is now not comfortable? Where are the places that it is comfortable? And just being aware of the body in a certain posture, just being aware. And then lastly, we combine it all together in a Chittanupassana and said, now just be aware of everything. Just be aware of everything. The sound comes, you're aware it's a sound. If your attention goes to your body, you are then aware, okay, you are aware of whatever you are aware of the body. And when a thought comes, you are aware of the thought. And just being aware, as and where your attention takes you, just being aware. That is how we completed the 4-day program. So I have put the recording in the group. The title is 4 Protective Meditations and a Place of Non-Abiding. And Dr. Mano renamed this title, and she said she also put Samatha and Vipassana because she said God knows what people are looking for. And having 3 subtopics, they might be interested in at least one of them. So 4 protective meditations is one topic, a place of non-abiding is the second, Samatha and Vipassana being the third. She said, hopefully people who see this might be interested in at least one part of the topic and then come into this, and hopefully they will want to hear it and practice it and make it a useful experience. So, so therefore, I thought there's a need for let's talk and more meditation. But before that, I'd like to pause and take questions and reflections so that